I'm thinking about a small denomination with a devoted blogger who was concerned that his seminary was becoming too liberal. He identified which professors were the most dangerous. The small denomination soon moved to fire the school's board of trustees. Those people then sued the school. Say your board chair resigned suddenly. He or she is the pastor of an influential church in your denomination, and on the church's website appears a little notice about this saying that the chair resigned because the seminary and I are going in different directions. These days, unhappy people talk not only in person, but they talk online, they start Facebook groups, they tweet. So do you have a plan for who will talk officially? Who is going to make sure that the message is clear?
How do we stay in touch with people in a wired internet world?
Some of you are caught in situations as bad as the ones I will be talking about, and maybe we can all help each other and learn from one another. I want to start out with a story. This is a Northeastern seminary with a prominent school with a long history. Some of its troubles became public. Faculty members and alumni quickly set up Facebook groups, which were soon made private, but they started out public. And they set up their own website where they posted a timeline of the events that were unfolding on their campus. They posted copies of every single document that they received. Last week, I went to one of the groups that I had joined back in September as a kind of lurker, and I attempted to print out every post that had been posted to this one private group since early September. And the Facebook would only let me go back to October, so I missed out on the entire first month. But I literally cut and pasted into a Word document, thinking that I might share that with you. It was 549 pages. Whoa. So I'm not sharing that with you. Not only that, but supporters of the faculty started an online fundraising campaign and raised about $30,000 in about 3 weeks. These were people who were angry at the president and the administration and the board and were supporting the faculty. The faculty and their alumni supporters were cultivating this, and the president and the board were essentially not communicating at all. An example writ large of what might happen at any seminary. These days, unhappy people talk not only in person, but they talk online, they start Facebook groups, they tweet, they post photos on Instagram, they write blog posts. I think that all of us have spent a lot of time thinking about our communication strategies. What I want us to think about today and discuss in this rather intimate setting is not just how we communicate to donors, our church bodies, current and potential students, or anyone else, but how we listen to them, how we have conversations with them. And I think that the strategies for communicating to and the strategies for communicating with are related to each other. And that's kind of what I'm talking about in these bullet points. Covering up is the natural thing we want to do, but in today's environment, it's very difficult to cover up anything. Once people are on this, like, hound dog, they are going to dig up everything. There's a difference here between conversations that are initiated by you or your seminary. You plan the content, you set the timetable for the release of the stories, you choose which media to employ, you ensure that the content promotes your mission. Conversations not initiated by you, the content is breaking news, it's leaked, it's dredged up from the past, the timetable is immediate and unexpected, the news spreads through media beyond your control, the information may or may not undermine your mission. Sometimes it doesn't undermine your mission, sometimes it brings out sympathy, it could be, as I pointed out to someone today, you could have a car accident on your way home from the airport tomorrow. would be terrible. It wouldn't necessarily undermine the mission of your seminary. It might bring out an outpouring of sympathy and support. That's still something that news that has to be managed, though. And if you're not the one, if you're in the hospital, there should be a plan for how that information will be communicated. The first one I'm calling broadcast communication, and the second part I'm calling networked or social communication. You'll notice that I'm not saying that Twitter or Facebook is social communication and a newsletter or a letter from the president's office is broadcast. Twitter and Facebook can also be broadcast communication. That is, you're communicating to your publics. They're also an opportunity to listen, but it doesn't, when I say broadcast versus social, I'm not talking about which platform you're using. I'm talking about the kind of direction of the communication. The key in both cases is being prepared. People act shocked when the usual crises occur and they have no adequate plan. If there's something about finances or about sex, don't be shocked. Those are the usual crises, right? Someone having an affair and someone stealing money, those are the usual crises. Those happen all the time. So don't be shocked, be prepared. How can we prepare for the usual crises? What's our communication plan for normal times and for times of crisis? And then for networked communication, in normal times, how are we cultivating the conversations and building our network of friends? And in the middle of a crisis, how can we listen to the many voices and respond appropriately and keep on promoting the mission of the institution? Okay, here's the strategies. Keep your mission central. That's just 101. You all know that. Be specific and clear about what you're trying to accomplish. This is one that I think that we really need to be thinking about. This is something in which Twitter and Facebook and everything else have really changed things. Your audience needs to know who is speaking. You have individual professors, sometimes individual departments, that might be sending out communications on one hand, like the admissions office, or a professor who is well known in his or her field. And then you have something else coming out from the president's office. These might not be completely aligned, and it might be hard to get them aligned. As we know, it's hard to rein in faculty, especially if they're known in their field. We're not trying to rein them in. We're trying to make sure that everyone knows what's coming from what. I want to show you an example of someone who does this well. If you go to the homepage of Garrett and you go down here to under this tab here, it goes down to news and media. If you go over to their social media and blogs, they have a tab called social media and blogs. And what I want to point out is underneath it, they have little listings that say official Facebook page for Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary. What I really like about this is that I know if I go to these things that this is the official word. During normal times, that's handy. During a time of crisis, I would definitely want to go here because I'd want to hear what the school is officially saying. At the very bottom, there's a little notice that says, affiliated pages and blogs are often maintained by student groups, centers, individual faculty, or staff of Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary. Any views presented are solely the views, opinions, positions, or policies of the author. I think this is important. Notice that they're not trying to stifle any of those. They're just telling you where you can find the official views and warning you that everything else are just the opinions of the people who are posting them. And then the fourth thing that I have as a strategy is authenticity. This is also something that's relatively new in the last 10 or 20 years. Hearing directly from the leader is very powerful. If you look at your own calendar, you'll see how much time are you spending face-to-face with potential donors, funders, church leaders. You know that this is important. Your blog, your email, your Twitter feed, those are ways that you can spend face time with a lot more people. Warning that if you're the president and you're speaking using any platform at all, that your words are seen as official. There is nothing off the record. You can't go onto your private Facebook page and criticize someone and expect that won't get out. A socially active strategist has a strategy for blending personal information into this. Rick Barger was just telling me how when he tweets, sometimes he's watching a football game and he tweets about that. That's okay. It's good for people to know you're human and you're not just a robot for your school. But I'm sure that Rick is savvy enough to know that there are some things you tweet about and there are some things you don't. Football, okay. Your grandchildren, great.
I'll, post out, oh, happy day, today's, this granddaughter's birthday, put her picture. And, I do that kind of personal stuff on my Twitter account, but I do refrain from anything that would in any way hurt, injure, shame any other individual. I just simply will not do that. I started ultimately as a parish pastor having a weekly web blast. When I walked into Trinity Lutheran Seminary, my very first Wednesday, I started my blast, and Trinity needed people, what you said, people will make up their own narrative about seminary. But I write a weekly message that goes out on Constant Contact. Staff, faculty, students, administration, alumni, and a whole host of people who have said that they want to get this. I write it on Monday night, regardless of where I am. In my first several months there, I had things debunking the myths you may have heard about Trinity Lutheran Seminary. You may have heard this, that we are 2 steps away from financial ruin. This is simply not true. These are things, and we do that. Then I will tweet it on my personal Twitter account, and seminary has its own account. It tweets it out, and it's linked to my Facebook page, and it goes out. But then followers begin to retweet it, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's gone viral. And I'm responding on Twitter, generally to people 40 years and younger. I'm responding Facebook, stuff like that. I respond to every person that sends something to me, even if it's Jay, thank you very much, your words mean a lot to me. Or thank you very much, I didn't see it, you gave me a new insight, but I respond to everyone. But the inbox to which the responses come is not my normal mailbox. It goes to my assistant who forwards them to me. So in addition to that, if I'm in the Central Plateau of Haiti, where I was 2 weeks ago with 10 Trinity students, I'll take a 10-second video of this, load it up on YouTube, tweet it out, and here we go. It's created a voice where I will speak about anything Trinity. I will speak to things that are going on in our church body, things that may be happening in the world in terms of poverty and things like that. And my year review of all the things that people appreciated about what I was doing, it was the communication is what got universal. The entire review team said yes, and it's been consistent, it's been persistent, and it's been insistent, is what they said. So that's what we do. It's not rocket science.
Rick, I want to be devil's advocate so that no one else has to ask you this question. I am too busy to do that.
Well, we all have to make choices. I can't think of anything more important right now than authentic, transparent, truthful. The way I operate is I admit brutal reality for what it is, when it is. And then here's the hopeful message. This is how we're going to get through this. And the ask, I need your help. So, no, I don't have time to do this, but it has increased tremendously the amount of money that is flowing into Trinity Lutheran Seminary from our donors and constituencies. The first 6 months, our applications. I preached in chapel at Luther College in Decorah, and afterwards, a student comes up to me and says, I read your blast every week. I had no idea.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you respond to the uncomplimentary
Absolutely.
content?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
What do you say?
Well, I
You're
give
a
them
jerk.
one shot. I say, I appreciate what you said. I think you misread what I want to state it again. And then I say, thank you very much. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. But I appreciate you staying in touch.
Do you think this is a skill that ought to be taught in seminary? Model of what you're doing.
No, I of course I do. I think that how do we stay in touch with people in a wired internet world?
Another person who does this well is someone who is sitting here in the room with us. This is Greg Henson's blog. He does a lot of data crunching and a lot of stuff like that. But I know, because Greg keeps his blog up to date, if there were a problem, if I was worried about the seminary, I would know that he could hear directly from Greg if they went to his website.
At Sioux Falls, I don't post something every week. But I've worked with our communication director that there's a specific plan for the next 3 months. This is what the theme is that we're trying to communicate, and here are the weekly things that are go inside of that theme. On Monday, when it's posted, it goes to our board so that they get it first. And then on Wednesday, it's blasted out to everybody else that wants it. And that blast includes our staff, because we have found that our staff don't necessarily go to our website. And so it's good for them to get an email that says, hey, here's what we're saying to everybody.
This is a question that I have that I think maybe we could discuss. Is your chief communications officer a member of your cabinet?
Cabinet.
Academy.
Cabinet.
Ours is in development and alum relations. I have to think about this.
Any other comments, questions?
Could I just ask a question about those people who have communications people on the cabinet? How's that working in terms of very sensitive matters that are discussed and confidentiality needs?
That I found it more helpful by having them involved in the conversations. They hear all the nuance, they hear everything, and so now I don't have to take my time to communicate it as much as we can in a cabinet say this is what we think and this is how it might be communicated. And oftentimes she will bring up stuff the rest of us didn't think about. Like this is how it will hear, this is, and so she can leave a meeting and be able to write something without me having to tell her how to write it.
Removes a level of internal communication. They know everything that's going on. They know the development, everything that's being planned as it's going forward. They're getting all the updates from the senior administration.
During good times and bad, you really need to make sure that your message is clear. And if you have a good communications person, it might be a good idea to have that person higher up in the authority structure than you might normally think. And part of that is that communication, it's so immediate. I mean, you want to trust your communications person and you want to make sure that they have your ear and that they're helping you with your message. Our time is up. I want to thank you all for coming and invite you to have further conversation.